We're going to go to Ken with story number 5. Ken Silverstein, we're coming to you with story number 5. This is coming out of, it's Yahoo, but they basically picked up a Miami Herald article. Now, you are based in Washington, D.C. You've lived all around the world. You spent a number of years living in Miami. You also come back and forth. So I want to get your take, not necessarily on the real estate side, but more so the nightlife side and how South Beach, the destination, Ocean Drive, which everybody knows, could be changing. In this most recent Florida legislative session, in an attempt to counter moves to try to put in rent control because of increasing housing costs, the state passed some legislation that basically allows developers to come in, build affordable housing in return for building affordable housing, which is effectively a loss leader. They're not going to make a lot of money on it. They get to build the highest and maximum density. As long as they earmark affordable housing, they can go as high as humanly possible. So that's the backstop, Ken. Let me read the headline, first couple graphs. Plan to replace Clevelander with housing is already a political football in Miami Beach. According to the Miami Herald, first couple graphs. When the owners of the Clevelander Hotel and Bar in Ocean Drive announced last week that they plan to replace the popular party spot with a high-end restaurant in a 30-story residential building, Miami Beach politicians and candidates for office will quickly label it a disaster. The mayor said, worst idea ever. And the mayor later posted an image showing how much such a development would tower over the neighboring Art Deco structure along the famed South Beach Street. Take a look at how entirely out of scale a 30-story building will be in an area that roughly is 2 to 3 stories tall. Let me go on with the story. Mike Greco, a former city commissioner and state representative, is running to succeed Gelber, posted a video standing outside the Clevelander, saying the new building would be by far the tallest building anywhere near the entertainment district. It will be casting a shadow so large that it'll be a reminder every day to all of us here in Miami Beach how Tallahassee, which is where the Florida legislature is based, continues to strip away our power to dictate how architecture is preserved and how we control development. One more graph, Mr. Silverstein, that I want you to comment. Bill Rodeo, a former MTV executive who also is running for mayor, wrote on Facebook that outsiders like Montreal-based Justa Group should not have more influence on our city's development than those who call it home. Mr. Silverstein, what do you make of the fact that this historical district known as Ocean Drive as well as Art Deco basically can be whitewashed and maximum density in an area where 2 or 3 story buildings could suddenly have neighbors that are 30 stories tall in order to build affordable housing? What kind of impact do you think that'll have on the South Beach scene? And do you think it's a good or a bad thing?
Well, it's obviously a bad thing, but it's also not a done deal, right?
Oh, well, according to the legislature, they can go forward and do it, and they don't necessarily need to get local support or sign off. It's basically a clear path to go ahead and build. And a hearing doesn't have to be held. If memory serves me correct.
That's typical. I mean, no doubt, like there's no way that ever be approved without, a bunch of money changing hands between, elected officials and the developers. I mean, there's no way that, like, if you put it to a straight up and down vote, it would get 5%. If it was put to the residents of the area, maybe some of those payments will be structured to make them legal. Maybe others won't, but it's Miami. Obviously you couldn't do this, without, paying off elected officials, which, wouldn't be surprising. It would be essential, in fact. Now, so it's a terrible idea, obviously. I mean, South Beach in general and Ocean Drive are already been completely transformed. I mean, it's like, I barely go there anymore. I mean, most of the people I know, nobody wants to go to South Beach anymore. I wouldn't anyway. And I think a lot of people do. It's not like a great destination. I mean, it's, obviously it's always had tourists. It's just changed in a way that's unfortunate. And this would be one other change. I have to ask you something though. When you mentioned this story, I thought the Clevelander initially was, I'm sure I've been there, or at least I think, but I thought it was the place we went to last time I was in Miami. It was pretty dumpy. The Clevelander, from what I'm reading online, is not. I mean, every time you take me to a bar, like, look, anybody listening to this, if you go to a bar with Peter, I mean, just watch out. Every time I go to a bar with that guy, it's like, right before you go in, it's like, look, you got to keep your eyes open. This is the sort of place you can get shivved. So, which is always true. Like, Happy's or on the rocks. And the place you took me last time in South Beach, but it wasn't the Clevelander. But there was some other place. Clevelander definitely looks a little bit higher end than your typical Zalewski bar, but it also sounds like an institution, been there forever, and a lot of the South Beach institutions have just been forced out and whatever, like torn down. It's really unfortunate. And this, I mean, putting up a 30-story tower in that spot is moronic. I mean, that's like I say, you could never do that without paying off, the people who need to be paid off. Nobody's going to approve that.
Yes.
It'll probably happen. Fine, it's Miami.
Just for clarification, the story says the city's regulation limits building heights on Ocean Drive to only 50 feet. Basically 10 feet per story, so maybe a 5-story tower. They want to go 30, just to give you context. And the Historic Preservation Board, the group that has the power to review and reject redevelopments in the area, the Live Local Act, which is what it's called, says local governments cannot limit an affordable project's height below the tallest height permitted within 1 mile of the project or 3 stories, whichever's higher. So basically, the way the law was written, government has no say, local government. The state's able to override it. So with that, I want to go to Mr. Fakler. Mr. Fakler, you've been in Miami since the 80s. You got here back in the day when some New Yorkers came down here. They saw the Art Deco area. It was really one of those areas that a lot of people would, it was portrayed in the movie Scarface, a little bit of a rough area. And back then, there was this movement to basically knock everything down and build high rises. And these groups got together. They ended up preserving it. And then South Beach turned into what it is. Mr. Fakler, does this remind you of the late 80s when there was an attempt to basically whitewash all of South Beach and put up all kinds of high-rise housing? Or is this maybe a little bit different because there's the affordability aspect? What say you, Mr. Fakler?
Well, the affordability aspect is interesting because, back in the day when I was here, there was only 9th to 14th Street. Everything else was a lot of the older generation, to put it mildly, was basically sent packing because the prices went up. They couldn't afford it. The senior citizens who lived there, who, basically populated South Beach and Miami Beach, are now all gone. So affordable housing, is it making a comeback? Is that, because this seems to be a push now for affordable housing, although I've never seen it in Ocean Drive or South Beach at all. You see it in other parts of Miami, but this move towards workforce housing, affordable housing, haven't seen that in South Beach. So, I'm surprised if this is going to be a one-off, if it's like an experiment to see if this will work.
No, this is a state law that just went into effect July 1st, and we've been talking a lot about that.